Counter-Strike Global Offensive is a game about terrorism and counter-terrorism. Nefarious forces who attempt to blow up buildings and landmarks or kidnap innocents, and the heroic soldiers and law enforcement squads that try to stop them. Or is it? Consider DE Bank, a demolition map where the terrorist team is actually a crime squad called the Professionals, and their target is a bank safe. Doesn't sound like terrorism to me. This begs the question, what other stories are hiding behind CSGO's quick and easy terrorist counter-terrorist designations, and are they all as morally black and white as they seem? In this series, I'll attempt to answer that, looking at map settings, agent models, and matching them to real-world history and geography. Welcome to Counter-Strike Global Forensics. The best place to begin with Cobblestone is with the mission briefs. The page on Counter-Strike's fandom wiki has the official description as follows. Counter-terrorists. Prevent terrorists from bombing Lord William's country farmhouse. He has been the target of assassination in light of recent government proposals. Terrorists. The terrorist carrying the C4 must place the bomb at one of two bomb sites around the map, thereby killing Lord William and severely damaging his home. This stands out pretty immediately as inaccurate, at least to CSGO's Cobblestone. In what world is this a farmhouse? It might not surprise you to learn that this mission brief actually predates Global Offensive by a long while. DE Cobble was first added to Counter-Strike in 2000, and at this time looked very different to how it does now. The brief dates from some time around this. I'll link 3Clicks Phillips' video on Cobblestone in the description. It's probably the best place to start if you're interested in Cobble's early history. The takeaway here is that the mission brief is clearly not entirely relevant to CSGO's Cobblestone, but it isn't irrelevant. Let me explain. It doesn't really happen anymore, but CSGO operations used to have basic storylines integrated into them. No cutscenes or anything, but you'd get mission trees with brief snippets of lore. And in missions relating to Cobblestone, in the Bloodhound and Wildfire operations, the same Lord William is mentioned. What's more, Lord William goes beyond some ancient text box in some out-of-game UI. The hostage in Bloodhound's Cobblestone Guardian mission was called William. I can't show you this, I've got no footage since you can't play old Guardian missions when their operation is finished. I tried forcing my way into a Cobblestone Guardian match using the console, but no bots spawned, so take my word for it, this is real. All we know from the mission brief is that this map is somehow tied to a Lord William, as this clearly isn't a country farmhouse, but let's go from there. What is this setting? Well, it's a castle, obviously. And as we can see from the signage and the architecture, it's a French castle or chateau. But whereabouts in France are we? Given that it's tied in some way, probably ownership, to a guy called William, I wondered initially if that were a hint towards a Norman setting. I got pretty excited about this too. The historical Normans were of Norse origin, and Cobblestone's famous Dragon Lore tapestry looks pretty Norse to me, but then I looked outside and saw the mountains. So, not Normandy. I'm no expert on French mountains, but this scenery looks pretty alpine to me, and there are some similar-looking real-life alpine French chateaux, like the Chateau de Menthon-Saint-Bernard. Side note, I found this chateau as a loose visual and location match for Cobble while researching the video. I'm writing the script now, and I've just realised I've been here. Not to the castle itself, but to the town of Menthon-Saint-Bernard. These pictures you're seeing, I found them in an old photos folder. Not super relevant to the video, but this was too weird a coincidence not to share. So, a French castle in the French Alps, and the CTs are playing as the French counter-terrorist force, the GIGN. But what's not French? Lord William. This character who seems tied to CSGO's Cobblestone. Doubly so, in fact. Let me explain. France doesn't have lords. They don't even really have nobility anymore since the French Revolution. It's complex, but in a nutshell, noble families kept their titles, but not any of their privileges. So yes, French nobility still exists, and some of them even still own estates or fancy houses, but not in the way they do in other modern monarchies. And more to the point, according to heraldica.org's webpage on nobility and titles in France, lord itself was never a title in the French system of nobility. All the nobles were the lords of their land, but someone using lord, or in the French, seigneur, itself as the title would have been impossible. The term lord only meant the possessor of a certain kind of property in the feudal system, a mixture of actual real estate and rights over people, and moreover, unlike the other titles which have persisted, all lordships disappeared when feudalism was abolished in 1789. And secondly, William is far more of a British name than it is a French one. The French form of William is Guillaume. It's of Germanic origin, but its modern Germanic form is Wilhelm. So Lord William couldn't be French. If he was, he might be Duke Guillaume, but he's not, he's Lord William. British name plus Lord suggests that this character is, well, a British lord. The mission brief again suggests the terrorists are bombing his country farmhouse because of recent government proposals. Well, it isn't a farmhouse, and a British lord is probably not going to have much of an impact on French politics. So what's going on in modern Cobblestone that's drawing terrorists here? Well, let's take a look around the map. It seems the single most obvious change in CSGO's Cobblestone is the antiques and artifacts dotted about the place. The castle's a museum now, but the crates everywhere and armoured transports and under construction signs suggest that it's a museum in the process of being set up. The terrorist models themselves don't give us much of a hint towards motive this time. This faction is called the Phoenix Connection, and without getting too bogged down in old operation lore and characters, let's just say that these are CSGO's most generic terrorists. We don't really have an overarching ideological framework they operate within. We don't know much about their goals, but the museum development and the more recent information we have about this Lord William fella are just enough breadcrumbs with which to build a hypothesis. Apologies for the mixed metaphor, but you get the point. It's worth considering where the bomb sites actually are on the map. They're not in the middle of the castle, and they don't seem particularly close to any living quarters. As such, I think it's safe to say they don't want to destroy the castle or kill anyone in particular, at least in the global offensive version of the map. But a site, at least since the most recent update, is on a pile of coffin-shaped boxes, which could well be transporting mannequins for museum exhibits on armour, as well as near an armoured truck, presumably transporting priceless antiquities. B is in the middle of this courtyard, around this old-looking fountain and statue. These targets, in addition to the fact that the T's attack while the museum is under construction, suggests that the target isn't the castle itself, but the establishment of the museum and its exhibits. But why try to stop a museum from opening? I wondered initially if it was something to do with French nationalists being opposed to some rich British guy buying one of their castles and trying to profit from it, but this theory doesn't seem to work, since French far-right or nationalist groups don't seem to target the British as much as they do non-white people. To which I say, you French nationalists should be ashamed. Your great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfathers didn't die in the 100 Years' War so you could start hating non-British people. Hating anyone more than you hate us British, isn't that fundamentally anti-French? But yeah, while the French far-right might be quasi-fascist morons, they're not violently anti-British. So that theory went bye-bye, and I went looking for more information on Lord William. And then I found it. Remember that Cobblestone Guardian mission I mentioned earlier? According to the in-game brief for that mission, the Phoenix Connection claimed Lord William's money was as dirty as it came. Now, we've no way of knowing if this is true, but it doesn't matter if it is or not. It matters that Cobblestone's terrorist faction believe it to be true, which clearly they do. And in real life, what is a famous and easy way for the mega-rich to launder dirty money? That's right, high-end art and museum exhibits. Essentially, when you're buying and selling things such as rare ancient weapons, armor, statues, and tapestries, there isn't really a fixed normal price that you pay for these items, meaning it's a financial gateway to all sorts of hijinks, like transferring large amounts of possibly criminal money. If I order an assassination, you could go and make a fake sword. I could pay you £10 million for the sword and shove it in some dusty case in some tiny remote museum, and no one will ever know that I actually paid you that 10 mil because you offed someone for me. And let's face it, there's no city in the background of Cobble. This is as remote as it gets for France. I won't get into the details as I don't want this video to drag on, but this museum laundering stuff is a pretty well-known phenomenon, so check the video description for links to some articles that go more in depth. And finally, we have our scenario. A clandestine organisation setting explosives at a remote chateau-turned-museum, not to kill anyone or destroy the building, but in an attempt to stop the museum from ever opening. It's been bought up by some shady foreign, mega-rich investor who may well be planning to launder billions through it for his own shadowy ends. But you know where this money comes from, and you know how to stop it without hurting anyone. That is, until you arrive at this remote location and the GIGN are waiting for you. Someone tipped them off. Maybe there's a mole in your ranks. Maybe Lord William found out, the limey prick, and paid them off with his dirty money. And now it's kill or be killed. And that's that. Do you agree? And if so, are the CTs clearly in the right? Are they protecting French heritage, or helping a shadowy oligarch crack down on the last thing in his way? Does it change anything that the Ts are seemingly aiming for nothing more than the museum's exhibits? Let me know what you think down below, or if you think you've got a better idea what the story behind Cobblestone is. Subscribe if you want to catch the next episode, and Gaben, if you're watching this, I know you're laundering money from antiques, and I will blow them up if you don't put Cobble back in the active duty